Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we are exploring something really fundamental to, well, pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Focus.
Hmm. It really is the foundation for so much, isn't it?
It really is, I think. We're going to be drawing from B. Alan Wallace's book, The Attention Revolution, for this one.
Oh, yeah. Great book.
It is, and it's interesting how Wallace draws on a lot of Tibetan Buddhist ideas and principles. But I think what's really cool about it is it's not really about religion at all.
Yeah, it's more like practical techniques, right?
Yeah.
Anyone can benefit from.
Exactly. I mean, he uses this metaphor of the mind being like a gracious host,
Yeah.
trying to manage all these rowdy, unruly
Not
guests.
like that.
Yeah, those thoughts, those emotions that just pop in and demand our attention.
That's so true, yeah. There's this constant chatter, isn't there?
Yeah. Oh, and he talks about, get this, building a psychological immune system.
Interesting. What's he mean by that?
So it's like by strengthening our focus, we can actually become more resilient to stress and distractions.
Ah, okay, I see. So it's kind of like mental fitness training, in a way.
Exactly. And he even ventures into lucid dreaming, which I'm excited to talk about later.
Oh, yeah, that's fascinating stuff. I'm really curious to hear what he has to say about that.
But first, I think it's worth diving into the concept of shamatha, which is a core practice in this whole attention training thing.
Okay, yeah, Shamatha, that's a big one.
So, have you ever tried threading a needle?
Oh, many times.
Yeah.
And usually with a few choice words.
Right. It takes like a really steady hand, precise focus.
Yeah, it's not about force, though, is it? It's more like gentle precision.
That's a great point, and that's kind of what shamatha is like for the mind. It's not about forcing your mind to be still, but more like gently guiding it towards this calm, concentrated awareness.
I love that analogy. It really captures the essence of it.
Yeah, it's like finding that balance between effort and ease.
Hmm. Yeah, that sweet spot.
Thinking about it, I've definitely had moments where I just felt completely scattered, like my mind was a runaway train, just overwhelmed.
Oh, tell me about it. I think we've all been there.
I mean, can you imagine how helpful shamatha could be in those situations?
Absolutely. It's like developing an inner anchor, that sense of stability you can always return to.
Yeah, no matter what storms are brewing around you.
Exactly. Like a safe haven.
Okay, so how do we actually get there? I know Wallace talks about these 9 stages of attentional development. Like, do we need to go through all 9 to actually see results?
Well, it is a gradual progression, like each stage builds upon the previous one. But even just focusing on a few key stages can have a huge impact.
Oh, okay. Well, what are some of the key ones that we should be focusing on?
Well, let's take stage 5, for instance. It's described as taming your thoughts like a flowing river. You're not trying to stop the flow, but rather you learn to observe it without being swept away.
So instead of being overwhelmed by this torrent of thoughts, you're kind of learning to ride the waves.
Exactly. And this leads to a greater sense of emotional balance, almost like building up a psychological immune system, like we talked about earlier.
So you're less reactive to stress, more resilient in the face of challenges.
Yeah, exactly. It's a powerful skill to develop.
Okay, well, that's definitely something I could use more of in my life. But what about some of the later stages? I'm really curious about this whole idea of single-pointed attention, which I think is stage 8,
Yeah,
right?
Sage 8, it's a fascinating concept.
Is it actually possible to maintain focus, like, effortlessly for hours?
Well, it's described as a state of complete absorption, like distractions just cease to exist.
Wow, that sounds almost superhuman, doesn't it?
It does. But even if we don't reach that level of mastery, the journey itself is transformative.
That brings up a really interesting point, and something that kind of makes me a little nervous, to be honest. The book talks about how shamatha can dredge up all sorts of hidden depth,
Oh, yeah, I remember reading about that.
like suppressed memories, unresolved emotions. That sounds a bit intimidating, to be honest.
I can see why you'd say that. It can be a deep dive into your own psyche, for sure. But remember, it's a natural process of self-discovery. It's like peeling back layers to reveal what's been hidden beneath the surface.
Okay, that's a good way to think about it. He even lists a bunch of potential experiences like paranoia, insomnia, visions. I mean, it sounds kind of scary, but he does emphasize that it's all part of the process.
It's important to remember that. It's not always going to be smooth sailing.
I guess it's really important to have guidance, especially during intense practice, right?
Absolutely. Having a qualified teacher can make all the difference in navigating those experiences safely and effectively.
Okay, so you've been warned, everyone. But amidst all these potential challenges, there's also this fascinating concept called the relative ground state of consciousness.
Okay, now that's a mouthful.
It is. What exactly is that?
Think of it as the mind's foundation, like a source of stability and resilience that lies beneath all the mental chatter.
Okay. It's what's revealed in deep sleep, right? And what shamatha helps us to access consciously.
Yeah, exactly. It's like tapping into a deeper level of awareness.
You know what? It makes me think about those times when you wake up from a dream and you feel incredibly creative.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. Like there's this spark, this clarity that you don't normally
Is
experience.
that tapping into this ground state?
It very well could be. And this state has some fascinating qualities, one of them being luminosity.
Luminosity. Okay, what's that all about?
Imagine that feeling of mental clarity you described after good dream. That's luminosity in action. It's a quality of radiance and clarity that permeates your entire being.
Wow, that sounds amazing. But wait, there's more, right? I know we've talked about this before, but how does lucid dreaming fit into all of this?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. Lucid dreaming is actually a unique way to apply shamatha and to explore the nature of reality itself.
Ooh, I'm definitely intrigued. Tell me more.
Let's dive deeper into that the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds good. Stay tuned, everyone, because we're just getting started. Welcome back to our deep dive into the attention revolution. We were talking about this ground state of consciousness and the quality of luminosity. Before we jump into lucid dreaming, I'm curious to hear more about those.
Yeah, let's unpack those a bit more. So, luminosity, think about those moments of pure clarity and insight.
Like aha moments, when everything just clicks.
Exactly. Those are glimpses of luminosity, a quality of the mind that's, well, always present, but often kind of hidden,
Yeah.
obscured by our thoughts and emotions and all that.
It's like those times when you're so absorbed in something, you completely lose track of time. Right.
Absolutely. And as we cultivate shamatha, we're training our mind to access that state more readily, both during meditation and just in daily life.
So it's like we're clearing away the mental clutter to reveal that radiant clarity.
Yeah, exactly. It's been there all along.
And you mentioned the ground state being this source of stability and resilience.
Right.
Does that mean it can help us navigate those challenging experiences that might come up during shamatha practice?
You mean like those intense emotions or buried memories we talked about?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a great question. The ground state is like this wellspring of inner peace and stability we can tap into, even amidst the storms of life.
So it's not about erasing those difficult emotions or experiences.
No, not at all.
It's more about providing a foundation from which we can observe them.
Yeah, with greater clarity and equanimity.
So instead of being swept away by the intensity of those emotions, we're learning to hold them with a sense of spacious awareness.
Exactly. And that can be a really powerful tool for navigating life's challenges.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just reacting impulsively, we have that space to choose how we respond with wisdom and compassion.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together.
Yeah.
But I still have to ask, can we really achieve this level of mastery? Like in our world today, everything's so fast-paced, so many distractions.
Right. It can feel a little daunting, can't it?
It does.
But that's the beauty of shamatha. It's a gradual path. Every moment of mindfulness, every effort to gently guide our attention back to the present moment, it's all a step in the right direction.
So it's not about being perfect. It's about practicing with patience and perseverance.
Exactly. It's like building a muscle.
Yeah.
The more we practice, the stronger our ability to focus and maintain that inner peace becomes.
And the benefits kind of ripple outward into all areas of our lives.
Absolutely, yeah. Our relationships, our work, our overall well-being.
Okay, I'm ready to dive into lucid dreaming now. I'm so curious to hear how shamatha can be applied in this realm.
Right, let's go there.
What exactly is lucid dreaming, and how can it help us explore the nature of reality?
So lucid dreaming is essentially becoming aware that you're dreaming while you're still in the dream.
Whoa, that sounds incredible.
It's like waking up inside your own dream.
But how do you actually do that? It seems like it just happens randomly, if it happens at all.
Well, there are actually specific techniques you can practice to increase your chances. The book talks about things like dream signs and reality checks.
Dream signs, reality checks. Okay, tell me more.
So dream signs are recurring themes or symbols that pop up in your dreams. By paying attention and noticing these patterns, you can start to recognize them while you're dreaming.
Ah, so that could trigger lucidity.
Exactly. And then there are reality checks.
Okay, what are those?
Those are little tests you do throughout the day to, well, question whether you're awake or dreaming.
Like what? What kind of tests?
Like you might look at your watch, look away, then look back and see if the time has changed drastically. If it has, chances are you're dreaming.
Oh, that's cool. I'm definitely going to try that. What's the point of all this, though? What's the benefit of becoming lucid in your dreams?
Well, for one thing, it could be a lot of fun. You can fly, explore fantastical worlds. You can even have conversations with interesting characters.
Sounds pretty amazing.
Yeah, it really is. But beyond the entertainment value, it offers a really profound opportunity to explore the nature of consciousness and reality itself.
How so? What can we learn about reality from our dreams?
Well, remember that concept we discussed earlier, conceptual designation?
Oh, yeah, the idea that we tend to perceive the world through the lens of our concepts and beliefs.
Right. In dreams, those concepts and beliefs, they can become totally fluid, malleable.
So our dreams can actually challenge our assumptions about how the world works.
Exactly. And by becoming lucid in our dreams, we can start to see through those assumptions, gain a more flexible, expansive perspective on reality.
That reminds me of something Wallace said about the borders between countries.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
He points out that, they exist because we agree they do, not because they're inherently real.
Right. It's like, whoa, our whole perception of the world is based on these shared agreements.
Yeah, and those agreements can be so limiting.
They can. They can create divisions, conflicts.
Wars, even.
Yeah. But in dreams, we can explore this possibility of transcending those limitations, of experiencing a reality that's not bound by our usual concepts and categories.
That's mind-blowing. It's like we're stepping outside the matrix, seeing the code. But how do we bridge that insight back into our waking lives?
That's where the practice of dream yoga comes in.
Dream yoga. I've heard of that, but I'm not really sure what it is.
It's a set of practices that help us integrate the insights from our dreams into our waking lives.
Hmm.
It's about recognizing that both waking and dreaming experiences are ultimately illusory.
Like reflections in a mirror.
Exactly. And by doing so, we can start to liberate ourselves from the suffering that arises from clinging to our perceptions and beliefs.
Okay, I'm starting to get a sense of what liberation really means in this context.
Yeah.
It's not about escaping reality, but rather freeing ourselves from the limitations of our own minds.
That's beautifully put. And it brings us to an important question, how does this newfound freedom actually translate into our daily lives?
That is a great question. I guess we'll have to save that for the final part of our deep dive. Welcome back, everyone. We've been on quite a journey with the attention revolution, haven't we? I'm still trying to wrap my head around this idea that, both waking and dreaming experiences are kind of illusory. It's really a different way of looking at things.
It is a pretty profound shift.
Yeah.
And it can be really quite liberating when you think about it.
In what way?
Well, think back to those unruly guests we talked about.
Yeah.
All those thoughts and emotions and impulses that tend to kind of hijack our attention.
Oh, yeah. Those pesky guests are always causing a ruckus in the mind.
Right. So this idea of liberation is about gaining freedom from their control. It's not that those thoughts and feelings disappear, but we learn to relate to them differently.
And we're not just constantly reacting to every little thing that pops up.
Exactly. We see them as more like transient visitors passing through, not the permanent residents of our minds.
Okay, I like that. So how does this actually play out in real life, though? How does a Shamatha-trained mind deal with, say, a stressful work deadline or a conflict with a loved one? Because those are the times when my guests tend to get really loud and demanding.
Yeah, those are tough ones. Imagine facing that deadline, not with all this frantic energy, but with a sense of calm focus. You're able to prioritize tasks, make clear decisions, and navigate those challenges without losing your inner balance.
So it's not about becoming some kind of emotionless robot. We're developing the ability to choose how we respond.
Yeah, exactly. And that brings us back to those qualities of the ground state we were talking about: bliss, luminosity, non-conceptuality.
Right. Those, they sound kind of superhuman, to be honest, like something out of a comic book. How do they actually help us in those everyday situations?
Well, take bliss, for example. It's not about feeling euphoric all the time, right? It's more like
Well,
a deep sense of peace and well-being that kind of underlies our experience. So even in the midst of stress, that underlying peace can be accessed.
so it's like an inner sanctuary we can retreat to no matter what's happening outside.
Exactly. And then there's luminosity. Remember that feeling of clarity after a good meditation or a vivid dream? That's luminosity in action. It helps us to see things more clearly, cut through confusion, make wiser decisions.
Okay, that's helpful. What about non-conceptuality? That one's a bit harder to wrap my head around.
Think of it as a state of openness and flexibility, where we're not so bound by our usual labels and categories. It
Yeah.
allows us to see beyond our preconceived notions and connect with a deeper level of understanding, compassion.
So instead of getting caught up in our judgments and opinions, we can see the situation more clearly and respond with greater wisdom and kindness.
That's a great way to put it. It's like we're developing a superpower, the ability to choose peace and clarity, even amidst the chaos of everyday life.
That is incredibly inspiring. But I have to be honest, it also feels a bit daunting, Like, is this level of mastery really attainable in our world? It's so fast-paced, so many distractions.
Remember, the journey itself is the destination. Every moment of mindfulness, every effort to gently guide our attention back to the present moment, it's a victory. And those benefits, they start to show up right away. Greater focus, reduced stress, increased emotional resilience.
So we're training our minds to become more like a still pond, reflecting the sky with perfect clarity.
That's a beautiful image. I love that.
It reminds me of that line from the book, "In the scene, there is only the scene." It's like we're learning to see the world with fresh eyes without all the mental baggage.
Yeah, exactly. And as we cultivate this kind of mindful awareness, we naturally become more attuned to the interconnectedness of all things. We start to see how our actions impact others, and we're more likely to make choices that benefit the whole, not just ourselves.
It's like those ripples spreading outward from that still pond, creating a more peaceful, harmonious world.
Beautiful.
This has been an incredible deep dive, and I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of this book.
Oh, for sure. There's so much to explore.
As we wrap up, what's one final thought you want to leave our listeners with? Something to ponder as they continue to explore this whole idea of the focused mind.
Let me see. Imagine a world where each of us has cultivated this ability to choose where we place our attention, to respond to life's challenges with clarity and compassion, to access that innate wisdom and peace that resides within each of us. That world is not a utopian dream, it's a possibility. And the journey, it all begins with a single conscious breath.
That's beautiful. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the power of the focused mind. Until next time, keep exploring, keep practicing, and keep unlocking that incredible potential within each of you.